Do you want to check out ITProTV but aren't ready to commit? We're making a few episodes from our most popular courses free for you to try here on YouTube so you can see what they're all about. Enjoy this episode and head over to ITPro.tv when you're ready to see the full course.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode here at ITProTV. I'm your host, Aubrey Spurgeon, and this is Windows 10, and we're preparing for that MD-100 exam. We are back in this episode for a part 2 of migrating user data, and in the previous episode, like we said, we did a lot of talkie-talkie, and now we're going to do the walkie-walkie, and here is Mike Roderick to start us off. How's it going?
I don't know the walkie-walkie. We're going to have to figure that move out. There we go. That's the walkie-walkie. I like it. All right. Well, yeah, we are back. Thanks for having me back. And we got to actually work with USMT now. We did all, as you said, the talkie-talkie. We figured out the pieces, parts, the components, what it's supposed to do, how it does all that. Now let's put it into action, right? Let's do the walkie-walkie. So join me on my screen here. We'll just dive right into it. This is my Windows 8 VM. This is Aubrey's old laptop. This is the one she's been using, and we're going to be migrating from. So I'm going to log on as Aubrey. If I can get her password from her. Thank you very much. We'll put that in there. And there we go. We want to verify. I figured we'd look and see what she had. That way we can verify that USMT is working and those settings have been migrated. So we can see she has a beautiful cat on our desktop background there. Her little, what's that, a Russian blue, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, a little Russian blue. She's got a to-do list on her desktop as well. And then PowerShell is pinned to her taskbar down there, which is not by default. And if I open up File Explorer and we take a look at documents, I'll see she has some files in there. So these are things that we can check on her new machine to verify that the USMT has indeed worked and migrated her settings. All right, so I'm going to log off as Aubrey, and I'm going to log on as an administrator. Now, because of resolution issues, I do have to close my VMC connection and launch that again to make it stretch out full screen. So bear with me as I reconnect to that Windows 8 machine. And this time I'm going to log in as the administrator. Because remember what I said in the previous episode, you do need to be or have admin rights in order to run ScanState successfully. So here we are on that Windows 8 client. And normally what you would do is once you had installed USMT, I didn't install it on this PC, right? I installed it on my workstation. And then all I need to do, it's not something that needs to be installed per se, right? I just need to have those USMT files available on this machine. So I would put them on a thumb drive, and that way I could take them to any machine or put them up in a network share and just copy them down right before you ran this process. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to open up File Explorer, and I've got a little network share, and there I can see the user state migration tool. I've copied that into the share. Remember where we looked, program files, Windows, kits, 10, yada, yada, all the way down to USMT?
Yes.
I just copied the USMT folder out of there and put it up on the network share. Not that entire path, not the entire ADK, just the USMT. And there's the 64-bit version of the USMT. And that's all I need because this Windows 8 laptop is 64-bit. So I'm not even going to copy the others, right? It's very simple. We'll just copy that. And I'm going to put it right on the root of C. You don't have to put it in that program files, x86 way down in there. You can put it wherever you want. I'm going to put it here because it's easy, right? Because when I open up my command prompt and I start typing in the path to scan state, I don't want to have to put C:\program files, parentheses, x86, / and all of that, right? I just want to type in C:\USMT, a whole lot easier for me, right? So let this finish. It's not going to take too terribly long. It's not that many files, a couple megs in size, I think, or a few megs there. Let that go. Not the fastest process on my little virtual machines. This will be much quicker in the real world. But once we get this copied over, I'm simply going to rename that folder, and then we can jump over to our command line or PowerShell, and we can begin this process to see how ScanState works. Because remember, in there, that the folder we're copying has everything we need. It has ScanState, load state, USMT util, as well as all of those XML files. All right, so again, I'm going to rename this to make it easier for me. I'm going to call it USMT, and then I'll simply close that, and I'm going to launch PowerShell as an administrator. And that font's probably a little small, huh?
Yeah.
Let's make that a little bit bigger.
Bump it up.
Yeah, and should be good. There we go. How's that?
Beautiful.
See all that?
Yep.
All right. There we go. And I'm going to do a CD, C:\USMT. And now if I do an ls or a dir, we should see all those files we were talking about or looking at earlier. There's load state, there's scan state, there's a mig app, right? All those XML files in that directory. All right, so we're in the right directory. We are good to go. We can start the process. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to generate that config file. Remember I said when you run scan state, you can generate a config file that makes it very easy to manipulate this process. The way you do that is you basically run scan state with all of the options that you plan on using, but you tell it don't actually run. Create a config file so I can see it and I can modify it and then use that when I do actually run scan state. All right. So we're going to type in scan state. Oops, and I forgot with PowerShell, I do need to do the dot notation here to run anything. So I'm going to type in scan state. And you don't have to put the exe, it's up to you there. / genconfig : config.xml. Right? Now I can call this anything I want, honestly. But config.xml is kind of the accepted. I don't know if it's not really a standard. Again, you can call it anything you want. Genconfig is what's telling it, hey, generate this config file. Here's where I'm going to put it. And it'll put it in my current directory since I didn't specify, and it'll name it config.xml. And then / I : / for include. And I'm going to tell it what XML files I want to use to run this process. And I want to do migapp.xml, right? Space / I : and you can do as many I's or includes as you need. If you've made custom XML files, if they're named something else, you just use that name. Remember I said you could name it whatever you want? Mm-hmm. Now you just specify that here. And let's do migdocs.xml, right? Instead of miguser. Remember I said either migdocs or miguser, don't use both. So / I : migdocs.xml. Let's also do a / v : 13. V for verbosity level. There's not 13. You can go out and look on Microsoft Docs. There's like 0, 1, 2, 4, 12. I mean, it's weird the way they've got that set up. But 13 is the highest. That means log everything you can, right? And that's it. So I'm going to hit enter. And it's going to begin the process. As you can see, it looks like it's actually running scan state. And it is in a way. It tells me where those logs are being sent to. So if something goes wrong and I need to troubleshoot, I can go and look at those logs. Here you can see it examining the system. And it's saying, oh, look at all these migration units. That's what it calls them. And it's all the profiles for the people that exist on this machine. Both domain accounts, MR Labs, that's my fictitious domain, as well as local accounts. Client 08, that's the name of this machine, / Nate. And then this computer. That's where it's getting a lot of the settings from the registry and things like that. And then producing the configuration file, usmt config.xml. So now let's go check that config file. We'll do a little notepad and then config.xml. And we'll bump that up a wee bit too, huh? Mm-hmm. Let's see if 16 is big enough for my old eyes. What do you think? Can we see that all right?
That's looking good.
Yep, okay. Mm-hmm. And so what you can see as I scroll down here is it's got all these different components and their display names. But as you look at it, right next to like here's component display name, Microsoft Windows International Time Zones, migrate equals yes, right? Well, that means it's going to find those settings in the registry in this case, and it's going to migrate those particular settings. Let me see something else that might make it. Snipping tool settings. Maybe you've made some customizations to your snipping tool. You want to migrate those settings. It's set to yes. Or maybe you don't want anybody migrating their snipping tool settings for some reason. I can simply change yes to, you guessed it, no. Right? And now it will not migrate that particular component. A lot easier than manipulating those XML files we were looking at earlier, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, a little bit easier. I'm going to change this back to yes just for our demo here. But as you can see, I can scroll through here. Do I want to migrate to Defender settings or appearance and display settings, theme UI, things like backgrounds and things like that, command prompt settings. We should probably, as we scroll down, Windows fax settings, those are important. We want to migrate those over. So yeah, you can see we have a lot of things. But again, a lot easier to work with. Down here, local groups, if I want to, you can actually start mapping groups. You can add user accounts to particular groups. You can even move users from one domain to another. Maybe during this migration process, we're moving from a laptop where it was ITPro.TV, and now it's moving over to OfficePro.TV, right? For that new computer, I could move that account over to that new domain. Now, that's just as far as the profile is concerned, right? We still need to worry about Active Directory. But USMT is a pretty powerful little tool, all right? So that is the config. I'm not going to save any changes. I didn't make any changes anyway, and I'm going to clear up my screen here. So now that I've got that config file, and I've decided what it is, right, according to our plan that we already did, I decided what it was we wanted to migrate, not migrate, things like that. I've modified my config file to support our plan. Now we're ready to implement, all right? So I'm actually just going to bring that old command back. I could retype it, but work smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Yeah.
But there are a couple things I'm going to need to add to this. All right. So I'm going to go back to the beginning, and not because this needs to be at the beginning of the command, simply because it's the way my brain likes to think about it. But back, I need to tell ScanState where to store all of these settings. Am I moving it to a local USB hard drive? Am I doing a hard link? Am I using a network share? And in my case, I'm using a network share. So ScanState / SVR01 / MIGStore. All right. That's the name of the shared folder that I want to store this stuff in. All right. So we'll tell it where, and I do look like I have an extra space in there, which might or might not cause a problem. I don't need to generate another config file, right? We just did that. So I'm going to take out gen. And I'm just going to say, oh, the config file I want you to use is in this current directory called config.xml. Right? So I'm just telling it where it is. I'm telling it I want to use MIGApp. I also want to use MIGUser. I want to log everything. Verbosity is going to be 13. All right. And we're going to add a little bit to this. So in addition to what we've got currently, I want to add a /O. All right. Is that too small?
No, just quick clarification. You said MIG user, but you're pointing at MIG
Oh, I'm
docs.
sorry. Yes.
Is that what you meant?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, that's my bad. Remember, it's one or the other.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking user settings, so I just said
Okay,
user.
yeah.
Yep. But MIG docs, good catch there. Good catch. So MIG app, MIG docs, and then our verbosity level is going to be 13 /O. O is for overwrite, right? When we do this, our default format, as I said, I think in our previous episode, is a compressed file. So even though there's 5 users on this laptop, when I do this migration, if I gather up all those users, it creates a single file. It's compressed. I can do a no compress option, and I can also do a hard link where the files don't move. But in my case, I'm putting them up on a network share, and it creates a file called usmt.mig. Right? Now, let's say I finish this process. I migrate Aubrey's settings to her new laptop. Everything goes well. Now I've got to go migrate Titus's settings because he's also on a Windows 8 laptop, and we got him a brand new Win 10 machine. When I run the command on his Windows 8 laptop, I'll point it to the same MIG store, that shared location. There's already a usmt.mig file up there from when I migrated Aubrey's settings. So if it sees that, it's going to fail. It's going to say there's already a file there. Sorry, can't do anything. It's going to stop the process. /O says overwrite the file, right? If there's already a usmt.mig, just overwrite it. Do be careful with that because when I do overwrite it, all of Aubrey's settings that I was migrating are now gone, right? And I'm replacing it with the settings I'm migrating currently in Titus's laptop. So make sure you're done with Aubrey's settings or have a different folder to store those settings in. But I'm going to do the /O just in case there's anything there. I'm going to overwrite it. And I'm also going to add, in addition, /UE : and a UI : And let's talk about those for a second. By default, the USMT gathers up all user profiles off of that machine. You saw it find those migration units, and it found the domain accounts, the local account or accounts, and the local computer. And that's what it plans on migrating. If I don't say anything else, it'll do all of them. You might not want to, right? Local accounts, do I need to migrate them? Does anybody use them? I don't know. You might. You might have a reason to migrate them, or you might not want to, right? In my case, I just want to migrate Aubrey's settings. I'm not worried about anybody else on that laptop because the reason my profile is on there is just because I logged onto her laptop one time to install software. Right? I don't want to migrate my profile. I don't want to use up the network bandwidth, the space, or anything like that. So I can choose which ones I actually want to migrate. But in order to pick and choose, because it gets everything by default, you first have to exclude everything, right? If I say I just want Aubrey, well, it already includes Aubrey because Aubrey's part of everything, right? So what I have to do is say exclude everything and now specify, oh, wait, go get Aubrey. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right. So you have to exclude everything first. Then you can use the user include to be specific about what it is you actually want to migrate. So UE, or maybe you don't. Maybe there's 15 domain accounts on there and one local account. You just want to exclude that one local account. You can do that with a UE. You could just say user exclude and exclude that local account. There's great documentation on how to use the UE and the UI switches on Microsoft's website, docs.microsoft.com. There's more you can do with this. There's working with local accounts. If the local account doesn't exist on the destination machine, do you want me to create it? Do you want me to enable it? Do you want me to set a password for it? So there's a lot more that you can do with these switches. Go check out the documentation. For the exam and for what we're doing here, what I'm showing you should be plenty. So I'm going to exclude everything. And you notice I just used an asterisk there. So UE asterisk, right? If I wanted to exclude just local accounts, I might do something like this. Name of the machine, client 08 / asterisk, right? So that'd be all local accounts. If I want to exclude Nate, I would do client 08 / Nate, and that wouldn't grab his account. In my case, I'm going to do asterisk, which excludes everything, and then / UI : and this is where I can choose what I want to include. And I could do asterisk to include everything, but why? It already included everything. Right. Why would I exclude and then include? Yeah, that wouldn't make sense.
You just want me.
That's that's it. That's all we want.
Yeah.
I could do, if I wanted all domain accounts, for example, I could do MR Labs / asterisk, right? Or something like that. So you can get creative with these options. In my case, I don't know why I deleted that, MR Labs / Aubrey. And that should just get Aubrey's account. It will also get system, right? You'll see this computer comes up because there are settings from the machine level that I need to move as well. All right. So I think I've got everything in there. Let me just double check myself. I've told it where to put it. I've told it what config files I want to use, config, migapp, migdocs. I've told it the verbosity level. I've told it to overwrite, and I've specified what user accounts I want to modify, to migrate, and that should be it. We should be ready to go. Shall we try it?
Let's do it.
All right, drum roll. Here we go. We'll hit enter, and we'll wait and make sure it kicks off before we do our TV magic. There we go. I can see it's discovering the units. It actually won't take that long.
Looks like it's going pretty fast.
Yeah, you can see Aubrey, yours already done. The longest one is going to be this computer. So let's just hang out for a minute. What do you think?
If you want to.
Yeah, we can
If you think we can make it that part.
Yeah, it'll pick up here in a minute, and it'll go pretty fast. But notice the first time we ran it, when we ran gen config, it found like 5 different profiles. And this time, it's just Aubrey and just this computer. So our UE and our UI switches are working properly. And there we go.
Success.
We're done.
Yeah.
All right. And yes, as Aubrey pointed out, we can see the word success. And that's usually a good indicator that we were successful, right? As far as the tool is concerned, now, I might not have picked the right user account or something like that. It doesn't know what I wanted to migrate, but it does know that the tool completed. And I've got a scan state return code 0, which means no errors were generated. All right. I can always go double check my log files, but with success and a return code 0, there's really not much to check. I know that everything went according to my parameters up there. All right, and that's it. So at this point, we could, you do want to be careful, right? I know it succeeded, but is that shared location, did anything get corrupt? Am I going to be able to successfully pull them down? The point is, I wouldn't go throw this old Windows 8 laptop in the recycle bin just yet, right? I would want to make sure that I did successfully move Aubrey's settings to her new computer. I would want Aubrey to use her new computer and verify that I did get. She's going to come back to me and say, hey, you know what? I had a folder called C:*My projects. I don't see any of that. And that's when I go, ooh, yeah, good thing I did not wipe your laptop just yet. Let me go see if I can get that real quick, right? Something I didn't know about or think about. Again, that's why planning and talking with the end users is always important. So anyway, we're done with our Windows 8 machine for now, assuming everything went well. And we're going to flip over to her new Windows 10 laptop. Now, Windows 10, I'm logged in again as the administrator. I just want to show you, if I go into C:*Users, There's no Aubrey listed there, right? Aubrey cannot have a profile on this machine before I start migrating her settings over. I showed you in the previous episode that USMT was installed on this machine, program files, x86, so on and so on. In fact, you know what? I'm going to cheat, Aubrey, and save us some typing, because I'm going to navigate into that location, program files, x86, Windows kits, 10, assessment and deployment, user state migration tool, AMD64. There's the tools I want. I'm going to come up here and copy that path.
That's smart, because that would have been a lot to type.
It really is. Easy to make a typo there.
Yeah.
This is also why we copied it right to the C drive in the other machine.
Yeah.
We didn't have to type this path in there. All right, so I'm going to copy that path, and I'm going to open up PowerShell as an administrator. And I am going to CD into that location. I already know from doing this before, it's not going to put the quotes around it, and there are spaces in those names, program files. So I'm going to put a quote. I'm going to paste that path in there, and then I'm going to put my end quote in there, and I'll hit enter. And now if you look at my path right up there at the top, you can see that. My profile puts my present working directory in the title bar, but I could double check that with PWD, and I can see I'm definitely in there. I could do an LS, right? That'd be the easiest way. And I can see things like scan state. And more importantly, on the destination machine, I can see load state, right? All right, and the only other thing that I didn't do, Aubrey, is that config file, right? Remember, we might have potentially made a custom config file. We did the gen config, and then we went in and I showed you how you could change yes to no. Well, if you've made changes to that config file, you need that config file when you run load state, right? So it knows what or what not to migrate, and so we can go grab that real quick. Let me just pull that. That was over here on Windows 8. And we put that right in USMT, and there is my custom config file. So I'm going to copy that out, put that on a network share. If it'll let me put it there, perfect. And then I'm going to do my Windows 10 machine. And I'm going to open up that network share. And you could use a USB drive, any way that you want to get that config file. I'm going to copy it. And I am going to go back into that location, program files, kits, 10, 80K, USMT, 64-bit, and I'm going to paste that config file in there. Right? So there it is. Now it'll be available when I run that command. All right. So let me clear up my screen a little bit here. How are we doing font-wise? Can we read that? Good?
Yes, but maybe bump it up a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah, just a little bit.
A wee bit bigger. Oh,
that way you don't have to zoom in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's try 20. Gets me a little, should do it, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so on the destination machine, we run load state. And Mike, you always forget /load state. Otherwise, PowerShell will say, hey, I see the executable you're trying to run. I could run it for you, but I'm not going to because you didn't put a / in front of it. And you have to do it all over again. Crazy. But that's the way it works. So /load state.exe. Where am I pulling the settings from? Where is this MIG file? That's something I didn't show you actually. Let's, how are we doing on time? We're getting close. //svr01 /mig store. All right, there's the folder it created, USMT. All right, when we ran scan state, it put it up on the network. Inside there's the usmt.mig. Notice it's not separate files or folders for users or anything like that. I can't double click on this and try to browse through it because this is the compressed version. All right, let me close that. So where is it? SVR01 /mig store. Now, I use tab autofill all the time. Notice it put a / at the end of my path there. I will tell you that will cause a problem. I'm always tempted to say, you know what, I'm going to tell it exactly where the file is, right? Because it's looking for usmt.mig, so you might be tempted to do this, right? Point it all the way to the actual MIG file. And believe it or not, it'll fail. It doesn't want you to tell it. It wants to find it on its own. It's just the way it works. I didn't write the program. So we're going to get rid of all that and just tell it this is where the store is, and it will go about finding the MIG file and taking care of business. All right. So tell it where it is, and then which config files did I use? Config::config.xml. right? /i:/migapp.xml. Now, I'm using the default version of those files, right? So the ones I copied over to Windows 8 and the ones that are here on Windows 10 are exactly the same. If on that Windows 8 machine I had made changes or custom XML files, I would need to make sure I brought those with me to the destination so that I could repeat the use of the same config files that I had made those changes to. In my case, I'm using the default files, so I can use the ones that exist in our default installation. So migapp.xml/i:/migdocs.xml. So I've told it where the config files are. I don't need to overwrite, right, because I'm not storing anything, so I don't need the /o. I do want to do my verbosity of 13. And then I'm going to do the UE and the UI again. All right, so UE:everything, and then /UI, oops, a little too many slashes there, UI:MRLabs/Aubrey. All right, and I'm going to do a /C, remember, to continue past errors. Use that with load state. Now, real quick, you might think, well, why are you doing the exclude, the include, right? If you're just pulling the settings back down, and it might be a scenario, think about this. Let's say that old Windows 8 laptop where all the Aubrey settings were. Aubrey wasn't the only one that used that laptop. Let's say at the beginning our company was small, it was a shared laptop. So Aubrey and Titus had their settings on the same laptop. So when I migrated the settings up into that usmt.mig, it includes both users, Aubrey and Titus. But now we're making a little money, and I've bought Aubrey and Titus each their own laptop. So I want to pull those settings down, but I don't need Titus's settings on Aubrey's laptop. And I don't need Aubrey's settings on Titus's laptop. So even though the MIG store contains both accounts, I can pull just Aubrey's setting down to Aubrey's laptop. Then I can go to Titus's laptop, run load state again, and pull just Titus's settings down to his laptop. All right? So that should be it. If I typed everything correctly, we'll hit enter, and we'll see what happens. It's always good when you see the process start. If you typed anything wrong, or you pointed to a location that it doesn't like, you'll typically already have an error. It's going to say, yeah, if I couldn't find that config file, or the share doesn't exist, or I couldn't find .mig, and it'll quit. But once you get to this point, you're pretty sure, unless there's a problem moving settings, right? If you hadn't installed all the applications, if there was an application running and something was locked and it was unable to write those settings in, that's when you might see an error here. But usually I've had pretty good luck once I get to this point of it finishing the rest of the way, except for, like I said, there's that Windows Defender SpyNet registry key that was causing me a problem. And here you can see it, right? One migration error would have been fatal if not for /C. So it's saying, hey, it's a good thing you did that, right? Or it would have failed. But since I did the /C, it did not fail. It continued the process. I do see load state return code 3. At this point, I would go here, right, where that log file was, and I try to figure out, was this the only error? Was it the error I was expecting? Or if this is the first time, right? Before I used the /C, when I was setting up this demo, I didn't know why it failed. It did tell me, it said, that once I got into the logs, I was able to determine what was causing the problem, determine that it wasn't anything I was that worried about, and I was okay just ignoring that error. But it might have been something that I needed to deal with. So it's good to go look at the logs and verify. All right, so it finished. We will exit out of PowerShell. We are going to log off as administrator. And I will have to close my VMC connection here. Let me let it sign out. There we go. And I'll reconnect to that Windows 10 machine. And we're going to log on as, actually, you know what, I should have showed you. Her profile already exists. If it created it, we could have seen it. But we can also verify that by just logging in. Right? I don't think I typed that right. Let's try that again. And evidently I didn't type it right the second time either.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Oh, my caps lock was on. I'm sitting there. Sometimes I hit the caps lock instead of shift, and it just throws me for a bad day. All right, so we'll give it just a second. It's not having to build her profile from scratch. So you're not going to see the whole welcome to Windows, wait while we set it up, because we've taken her old profile and we've migrated it over. It will take a little bit longer than a normal login if you had already logged on to this machine, but not as long as that very first log on to a machine. There you go. You can see it's already finished, and ta-da!
There's my cat.
There's your kitty cat. What's his name?
Gandalf.
Gandalf the Grey. I love it. So there's the kitty cat. There is the to-do list. You can see Powershell is pinned to the taskbar. Last thing we can check is if we go into documents, we should see there is those reports she had. So now Aubrey can take her new Windows 10 laptop and not have to worry about where's all my stuff, right? She's got enough to deal with, which is learning the new operating system, how that new start menu works, things like that, without having to go, where's all my bookmarks? Where's all the work I've been working on? Why does my office look like I've never used it before? Wrong theme, things like that. All of that's been migrated over, which will just ease that transition process. And that's really what it's all about, is getting our users migrated from their old system to their new system and easing that transition process.
All right, this has been Migrate User Data Part 2. If you didn't see Part 1, be sure to go back and check that out. In this episode, we did the walkie like we said before, and we used the USMT, and it's a lot easier for you when you're migrating that data, and it's a lot easier for your user when they're like, oh, all my stuff is here. So it's great, And thank you so much, Mike, for guiding us through that, and thank you all out there for watching. Signing off for ITProTV, I've been your host, Aubrey Spurgeon.
And I'm Mike Roderick.
And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching ITProTV.